Hello and welcome to episode 154 of The Imperial Truth. I'm here as ever with Mr. Howard.
Hello, Greg. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. In the final run now before an extra arrival, as you've been experiencing. But all exciting times. Couldn't be more exciting times, in fact.
More like interesting times in the Pratchett way for all those who are. And if you're not into Pratchett, then get into Pratchett. That's all I can do, frankly.
That was the end of the show. Thanks, everyone.
I was prepping myself for upheaval, and you get upheaval. Thankfully not quite as tired as people are like, oh, you're going to be so tired. And I'm like, I think I've said this story before. I had bad sleep apnea for quite a while. Haven't reached that level of tired yet, but that's partly because I have a wonderful wife as well. So I'm sure there will be times in the future. But at the moment,
you're sounding remarkably sharp right now, frankly, given the time.
A couple of days of being off ill, not doing a lot.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Sort of rested, although I was knackered at work today because I haven't eaten and drunk properly. So if I warble even more or get words mixed up, normally tired thing means I already call stuff the wrong name every now and then. There might be even more of that this show. So forgive me if we do. But hey, yes. But
it doesn't sound like us. It doesn't sound like us at all. This highly slick and professional operation we've been operating.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, look forward to it, man.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, all in the final run to that now.
Get your free time stuff in now.
Trying to sneak in as much hobby as I possibly can before the priorities adjust.
Well, I was all right until I remembered I had to record 2 podcasts, and then I was like, I have to not do my other hobby to get the podcast done. That's interesting. But there we go. It's life. It's all good fun. It could be a lot worse. So, enjoyable. Anyway, Element Games. You can go buy all your paints, all your toys, all your tools, all your board games. What you will be able to buy soon is some Plastic Heresy. We will talk about that later on. So maybe it's a good time to save your credits and save your element crystals or whatever for at some point in the near future purchasing some Plastic Heresy toys.
Gear up on getting all your essential hobby supplies for large-scale army production.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get your Revel super glue in, your Revel plastic glue in, and get your new brushes. Get your drill bits ready for those barrels. New clippers. Some people do.
Wasn't that long ago that we had a run on Chaos Black Spray? I think so. Yeah, you've got to get in the essentials.
Yeah. What Legion do we think everyone's going to do? What kind of sprays are we going to go now? Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people like to do new project, new brushes. Which I'm always amazed that people are that organised. But
Yeah. It's funny you should mention brushes. I was watching a fair few videos recently because it's one of those things you put up with certain things for a while, and then you suddenly think, what the hell am I doing here? I need to turn my attention to this. What's recommended? What's good? And actually, I had quite more of a collection of brushes than I thought I did. But there's actually quite a lot of good resources out there about these different things and about whether or not the benefits of synthetic brushes for certain things over sable brushes for something else, that sort of thing. When you start elevating it into that, and Element are well equipped for all of that, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. They got what you need, and stores in Sheffield and Nottingham as well.
Forward to going to that Nottingham store. I've got to pop in there.
If you want to support us when you're purchasing from them, please use the link, and also our Element codes are in the show notes as well. So have you been doing any Heresy?
I have indeed. I'm just looking at one right now. I've been getting some models that have been languishing untouched for a while. I'm trying to get them up to scratch. I've got 20 Imperial Fists being painted up here, so I think I've got the yellow scheme that I'm pretty happy with now, and just behind them 20 Iron Warriors in the classic squaring off against each other way. So just trying to get those done, really. I was quite pleased with those, breaking the airbrush out again and trying to nail those schemes and get the rank and file done while in this little run-up period, because there's a hell of a buzz at the moment. A lot of people talking about things and sharing work in progresses or getting stuff out, dusting stuff off. So yeah, I've got those done. Just looking at some breaches, looking at a little bit of Legion Command for the Imperial Fists, just because I got them to hand, really. I'm just picking and choosing stuff I'm enjoying. What about you?
Well, I've got a project ongoing at the moment which is taking up all my time. And I mean all my time. So yeah, can't really. I've got like I've got stuff on my desk that's like I've got my Age of Sigmar thing for an event in July, I think it is. I've got like 1 Mega Gargant painted and 3 Mega Gargants part painted, ready to go, been pushed to the side of the table. My desk was fairly organised about a month ago, and now it's a complete mess. I've got like demons that have fallen off bases that need to probably be pinned, and various other things. An unpainted demon ready to be like sprayed and painted. Another demon that needs to be built by someone else because it's like I just don't build resin anymore, any big kits anyway, that kind of stuff. So I've been head down, constant hobbying. Just not sure how far I'm getting. But
There is
pushing
some of
on
that. It's amazing.
regardless.
It is amazing how plans. And someone was sharing that the other day. It was like the image of someone saying about this is me thinking about heresy during the day, thinking about
Yeah.
modelling during the day, and then this is me when I immediately start. And then of course it's the little girl in tears, going, you've got all these grand plans. You think, yeah, I'm going to get that unit completely built and painted, no trouble at all. And then before you know it, all you've done is organise the parts in front of you. It's taken several hours, which is.
I was talking to a prominent hobbyist about, well, a few prominent hobbyists. I was like, any advice on drilling barrels? And they're like, yeah, guide hole, blah, blah. I'm like, no, mainly any advice on getting better guide holes right in the centre, because you only have to be fractionally off, don't you?
You've blown it,
yeah, you rip the side wall out of a bolter and stuff. And, I've done quite a few recently, and they take a long time as well. Like, it's amazing how much. Yeah, it's tough. And I've got some really beautiful ones right in the centre, and I haven't gone through any side barrels on any of the ones. Well, I have one very small bit which I managed to just put some glue on and just fix up a little bit with the glue. But he can sit at the back; it's fine. And then watching like a well-known 40k painter kind of just say, "Oh yeah, just I don't drill barrels," and I'm like, brain compute. No, it's your hobby, do what you want, but why are you not drilling barrels? But also understanding completely the idea. When you get to the point where you're like, how am I going to arm these guys? These ones aren't going to have guns.
Is this the same thinking you had between the remarkable number of your models that seem to have helmets?
Yes. Oh, that was a definite choice on this project. This was if I don't have any bare heads, I never have to paint any skin. Amazing. That's just genius. So this project particularly doesn't have any bare heads, which is
I'll
great.
tell you what, the other one that stopped me somewhat in the truck just before I went to undercoat all of the things I've been doing recently, the 40 odd Marines, which look particularly good. And you've got one long spraying stick. And if you got the double side tape and the 40 Marines lined up, look cool. But just as I lined them all up, I think it was the barrels actually was one of those. I was like, oh, I do need to do that, and I need to do it before I undercoat actually.
Yeah.
So that stopped me for a few hours just to go back and do all those.
Yeah.
Maybe the thing is pouches and like accessories. People have different opinions on those. Friends of mine into heresy, quite an avid collector, should we say, has a view of not. You just can't be bothered. To know just the basics, that'll do. Whereas I've gone a little bit. I was like, no, let's have all the gear. Let's have all the stuff on these guys. Make them look loaded down, which I quite like. Where do you sit with that?
Well, yeah, my 40k project, my Space Wolves, I was quite keen to get models painted. And then I was thinking, right, once I've got enough to play with, I will add squads to, like, I'll add intercessors to my 2 units of intercessors or whatever. And that third unit will be wolfed up a bit and will have pouches and I will paint them, but the other ones are just getting painted. I just want to play with them. Like, I'm not a massive fan of painting. Like, it's okay, but it's a chore. So let's just get stuff on the table. And this project, because I've got about 40 dudes, about 50 dudes, and I'm like, 0 pouches.
Yeah,
absolutely
I think like
zero add-ons. This is just getting painted on the table. But yeah, there's no doubt that a really well painted model with all those extra bits looks amazing. It just takes sometimes almost twice the time, depending on your color scheme.
And you sort of think, well, maybe that's one for maybe that's something for later. Like once I've done them all, then maybe I'll go back and do this afterwards as a separate thing. It doesn't have to be done all in one go.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. If it's not on there to start with, it's not going to.
That's it.
But if I've got a project where I really want to do like a smaller army, maybe I will, because it can look awesome. But as I say, it's but yeah, not one of these models has got a bare head even.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Which is kind of in keeping with the project anyway. So that's all good. So yeah, that's me hoping. I missed an AT event last month just before James was born because I had a really bad reaction to some drugs that I was given over the medicinal drugs. We'd say like some very strong drugs I was prescribed that started messing around with my liver. So I thought I better stop taking them. Once the green mossy coloured stuff starts coming out of you, it's like out your mouth. It's like no, that's all right. But I have got another one. I'm going up to the Horus Heresy. I hate the fact they call it a weekender, but I'm going to the Horus Heresy weekender, but for my Greetings from the Warp. And I'm playing AT at that. So borrowed an army because mine's not even there yet. So.
Oh, what have you borrowed?
I borrowed mate Jack at the club. He's got some pretty much Presagius colours, so I'm going to run them as Presagius because they're pretty cool. And I haven't really used them yet, so should be a laugh. I might even get a practice game in beforehand. You never know, but it's going to be one of those ones. I can't get the Friday. I'm busy the Friday evening, so fly up there on the Saturday morning and do that. But that should be good fun. So that's I say that's all I've got planned. We'll talk a little bit more about one other thing I've got planned.
There's an event section I think we're going to talk about.
Indeed. Should we talk about how did you wake up last Thursday morning?
I'm not going to lie, and I think I texted you about this. I got carried away.
Such a child.
I know, and I was like, well, this is quite exciting. I've got a good feeling about this, and I tend to get carried away with that. And I'm gonna stay up, and I did, and that might have been a mistake because it would have, as you rightly pointed out to me, it'll be there for you in the morning as well. But I didn't care. I went along with the excitement and thought I'm gonna stay up and watch this as it unfolds. So yeah, I had it on the TV, streaming as it was, as in slightly less than smooth way of dealing with it, but anyway, whatever. It was I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool little show they put on. Obviously was waiting for the big final session. The fact that it went on and they still hadn't done anything heresy, even though they said they were going to talk about it. I was like, this bodes well that they're saving it to the end. Didn't expect the trailer.
So was it streamed to Adepticon?
Yes, I believe it was. Based on the way they were speaking. I think the people in Adepticon... I got the impression it went towards it feels like they got it first. But then that seems maybe it was... Yes, maybe it was streamed to them first.
Because they had the studio set up, didn't they? I didn't really look at that. Because again, I was really busy Thursday. I was just like racing around and then like woke up at whatever time in the morning and like before 6, like quickly flicked it on and was like, oh, I'm going to go and use the downstairs toilet while I prepare so I can turn the volume up and not annoy the wife and watch it. And then was like busy at work and didn't get to watch it again for quite a while afterwards. I just got caught up in all the talk of it. But yeah, I didn't expect that. Although we did say, like so we called it, we did say that an Adepticon reveal could work with the lack of Warhammer Fest.
Yes.
This year. and proved right.
It was a pretty logical bet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The way things unfolded. And to be fair, actually, I should have thought through a cinematic was possible, given that that's what they've been doing. That's the method they followed.
I
People
didn't think it would be that much of a cinematic, though.
I agree. I
I
thought
thought it would have been the first stage
more
cinematic.
in-house one. Yeah. The more sort of cell-shaded animation type of thing.
Even that, I just thought it would be shorter and give us less, like a real teaser of a trailer.
Yeah.
Quite cool to show. So what's interesting is we saw various planets of the solar. If you listen to what Horace is saying, he's talking about the whole solar system. Because a few people are like, "Oh, he doesn't even step foot on Terra." It's like, well, that might not be Terra. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's a trailer. It's a trailer to advertise a game. Like this doesn't have to be canonical in any way, shape, or form. This just has to be really cool and exciting, and it was.
Yeah.
But also, it might not have been Terra because, hey, Titans everywhere. Oh, just looking at the actual preview page, and they've got the preview Adepticon online picture has got Horus and some Mark 6 Beaky Marines, and it's got those new tanks in it, I think, in the background.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, they're cool.
Have you missed these details? Is that the one?
No, not that one. Although, let me have a little look at that as well. I think I've missed that bit. I'm looking back at the 24th of March thing and the banner.
I think it's got the banner. And there's two shrouded in a fog, but there's two tanks there in the background.
Yeah, and obviously they were in the trailer as well. Confirmed that they are a new type of tank.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Very Sakaran-like, but not a Sakaran because it's a new tank.
Indeed, in the style of
yes, exactly,
familial likeness
in the family with
Oh yeah, they've used that preview thing. Yeah, so we've got
the 6 details you might have missed. Where is it? The 6 details you might have missed. There's some very cool stills from there. A friend of mine, friend of the show, Michael, has been through the trailer, and he almost went through almost frame by frame. You went through just pausing it. Yeah, well, yeah, it's a safe space, and he went through it, and he said it hit him far more pausing it because he said for him the sort of punchy, very fast, rapid changes was a particular stylistic choice. And he said he really enjoyed going back and slowing it down and freezing on things and really realizing how much detail there was in so many of the models and images. And actually, even now, again, just glancing at these stills from that Warhammer Community have put on. I mean, there's that one there with those new tanks rolling around, and then you suddenly realise, well, I mean, that is a hell of a scene with Marines firing bolters and a warlord and stuff walking around. I mean, it's worth stopping certain views. There's certain parts of it are even better, I think, are really enhanced by it being motion. A particular thing, being a bit of video, like the particular thing I like was the Titan taking the hits on its shield.
Yeah.
There is something very cool about that being a fully animated item.
I think you could take most of that thing and take still images from them and turn them into artwork that people would buy.
Yeah.
Even just like the Sons of Horus going downhill in slow motion, firing their guns.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool image, so simple, so cool. Just like the Imperial Fist Praetor with his tash and beard. I can see the one who's leaning on his sword, like crumpled.
I was just looking at that one, funnily enough. One of those ones they pulled out. The other one with highlighting the fact that he happens to have a crest, but that's a powerful piece. This sort of very ornate armor, but and
I'd be tempted by the Titans walking in front of the sun.
Everyone's talking. The cinematography in it was
as a still image.
Yeah,
I'd put that on my wall.
Someone pointed out. I haven't seen a direct comparison yet, but someone did point out that they thought there was not. I mean, this article on Warhammer Community makes the reference of that piece with all the Ultramarines lined up from but they're 40k Ultramarines, and how that's making a reference to where there's all those Sons of Horus, presumably Sons of Horus, lined up. There's quite a lot of images in here that appear to at the very least have the same language stylistically as some classic Titanicus and Epic artwork. Some of that really classic black and white stuff, early doors Marine stuff, brilliant that they reference some of that. I mean, it's just
one thing GW are really good at is utilising their back catalogue, and they've got better at it. And specialist games are probably the best at it as well.
Yeah.
And let's face it, a lot of their stuff does dealing some of the stuff they were doing early doors, where things have changed with 40k and Age of Sigmar. Games like Heresy and Necromunda can draw back onto that slightly weirder stuff. Not just John Blanche either. There was someone I saw, was it a tweet that got retweeted and talked about by John Blanche, who was like, "Oh yeah, I loved so and so's work." I can't remember what it was, but it was very much like, "Yeah, this artwork is that person's kind of style." There's a lot to be drawn from that. It was fantastic. It was super cool. I watched it again, and it's cheesy, and that's not a problem. It's a teaser trailer.
Feels like it should be in some ways.
Easy. I don't mind Horace's voice. He's he's in...
that was probably the point. I would say it's just not what I had imagined. And I think there's a direction I would have preferred, but it's fine. There was friends of mine who disagreed with that. And similarly, the animation. I think there's an argument. It's an interesting choice to put Horus in it. It is the Horus heresy. Yeah. So I can see where you're coming from with that. On the other hand, I feel like having a Sons of Horus Praetor would have been quite cool. Having him walk around and have Horus, and have it be suggested that it was Horus doing a voiceover, and then potentially a reveal of him at the end. Having him move around in that way, I thought the animation that was all the animation in it, that was the only thing I looked at. And bearing in mind, I'm being critical here. This is a very high quality piece of animation. It's unquestioning. I mean, it's very high end, sort of professional.
I don't know if you saw the comments that were like, "We need all the books of the heresy done like this," and it's like, "Oh man, I would pay for Warhammer Plus if you did that." You'd need a lot of people to pay for Warhammer Plus to produce animation of that quality for anything like enough to do one book. So let's look at Vox Machina and how much money that made, and they're doing 2 seasons. Of 8 shows?
It's serious,
and that's with support from Amazon Prime. So it costs a lot of money. I thought it was fantastic. I don't mind Horace's voice. He's not the Horus we knew by this point. I did laugh that Laurie Golding was like, that's not his voice. And then someone else was like, I saw another tweet to Laurie, which was like, "Look what they've done with our heresy." Like, I think it was the old Great Crusade people who were like back it again. For people who don't know, we talked about it before on the show years ago as well. But back before there was a Horus Heresy game, there were people playing Horus Heresy. There was a forum called the Great Crusade, and they would buy 5 or 6 individual models to make a era-specific armor. And some of those models would be metal, and they'd be spending £20 to £30 per model, and cutting off like one gun here, and like I think the Sterngar Vets were a good kit for having plenty of non-Mark 7 stuff, all that kind of thing. But they were like, "Yeah, look what they've done with our game. Like now they're just turning it all plastic. Like not like when we were doing it." It was like, "Oh, bless."
I think he did. Laurie put up quite a fun tweet. I thought it was a really good tweet. He was there. On the one hand, he said about people. He was commenting on people who no longer were part of a thing, commenting on a thing, and he's like, "Yeah, but just to be fair." Because he's saying that's not what Horace's voice sounds like. However, I'm aware that I'm doing exactly the thing I criticise. And then he said, "Yeah, but trailer was awesome though, wasn't it?" Yeah, even if you've got an opinion on some of those things, I think I haven't seen many people suggest it's anything other than pretty damn cool.
No, absolutely, and a lot of those. Well, I mean, the one big issue people have with it is the amount of Mark 6 armor involved. Where I mean, if if you want a great rebuttal of why that's wrong, and kind of, there are many reasons why it's wrong. One of which being it's a marketing video. But the Remembrances Retreat in the latest episode do quite a thorough deep dive through books and pull out bits to read about why Mark 6 can be in such numbers at the end of the heresy.
I would highly recommend a listen. It is highly entertaining.
Yeah, basically comes down to what I've said for a long time, like 7.5 years of war, a lot of Forge Worlds, and the answer that you always get from people, only the Alpha Legion and the Raven Guard and maybe some White Scars had Mark 6, is because they've taken a point from, and they'll say it's in the black books that there's not around. But what they've forgotten to do, which is a classic thing for rules readers, actually, for people who play the game, is they've stopped before they've finished a relevant part. And the whole Mark 6 not being around much was given to the Raven Guard Great Crusade era in the hope that it would fail, Perturabo and a few others. And then the next line, and there were only 3,000 suits made, but the next line is, and it was successful and put into mass production.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it backfired wildly. Yeah, so, yeah.
Because it's easy to make, loads of people make it. So,
well, there's a lot of things people are just sharing about it as well. I mean, not least of which, it's cool. I mean, straight up, it's a cool looking armor. It's one we haven't got before, and they've gone for it here. Could you have made other choices? Yeah, but we've got others, and this gives greater variety. Straight away, I'm on board with it. Go with it. Sort of looking back at the lore, there's been a brilliant number of, and it escapes me why it might have riled up a few people to react to it, but there's been quite a few people posting things this week, and I think it's been about a week, posting up various images and showing, covers from early heresy books. Oh, look at that! There's a Mark 6 Marine there. Covers, obviously artwork from the very beginnings and right the way through. That black and white artwork I was referring to and I'm calling out all those original Epic players there. That's where that's the stuff. Those quality images. Leaky Cheese does a fantastic series of images about that.
There's a vast misunderstanding. I think the term retcon gets used so much in the hobby as a whole, and I reckon you're in single digits percentage of the amount of times it's actually used correctly, because of unreliable narrators, because of misunderstanding of context, and because of misreadings as well. And that goes for 40k and Warhammer, and the amount of times I've seen stuff and I've just thought that is actually wrong, and not even like, oh, I can see where you got that. It's like, no, you've completely misunderstood that. Like, and I don't know how you've misunderstood that. But yeah, it's and not to mention the fact that all the way from the start, we've said it, you got 130,000 legion, like they are pumping out Marines to get to Terra. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Right. We know that.
Mass induction.
If your 50 guys are in Mark 6, that won't even register against the rest of the dudes. So
it's not a big deal.
Even if there were, an infinitesimally small amount of Mark 6 dudes, well, maybe you've got the new batch. It's cool. Yeah. It's not a problem. So yeah.
I still like the idea. You can come up with any number of reasons for these things. I mean, I love the idea of having specific units within a force, choosing specific armors for specific jobs.
This is the thing that gets me, right. If you're doing it right, actually you've probably got mixes of armor in units as much as anything else. Not every unit maybe, but at least some units where, like proper Mark 5, like as in non-production Mark 5, right? You should have people wearing different marks of armor on them anyway.
Yeah.
So, this bloke's whatever. Although I did quite like in the Lore Masters video they put out, like a Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV helmets designed work. Or is it Mark IV, Mark V, Mark VI? Like basically there's a 2 and 3 split. of which
Yes.
helmets work better with which suits.
There was a lot of interchangeability, and you can see it from just the style of it. The Mark III and the Mark II. The Mark III being effectively an up-armored version of the
Exactly. And then I
Mark II,
think it
or
was
a front
Mark 4,
armour.
Mark 5, Mark 6.
That's right, yeah.
Essentially, the helmets really linked.
Mark 6, even though I was reading that again, Mark 6 being the sort of next development of the trials of Mark 4.
Yeah, even then, you could get around it, but it just wasn't easy. So there's always been this allowance in Warhammer. There's always been that space to do what you want to do. And even in the Heresy, like what we know about the Heresy is the important bits. But what, 10% of actually what's going on in the whole Heresy? Like we know the major 10%, but actually there's 90% out there, which is just a galaxy at war. Like people you've got Space Marines who might not have ever met their Primarch because, they happened to be in a different part of the galaxy when they were trained up. I mean, you only have to look at Caliban.
Yeah.
Right? How many Calibanites who are there by the time the siege happens have ever met their Primarch? He's not been back. So yeah, it's crazy. I can only think it's a control thing that people kick up so much of a fuss, that they want their heresy and they want their space and their people who bite into what they do. And I think a little bit from the louder voices is like a little, almost a control cult element to it as well. But there are genuinely like individuals out there who stand up and scream about it with this misunderstanding, because it is, it's incorrect according to. The best thing is those are usually the kind of people who will stand up and use Alan Bly's name.
Oof.
And then we'll say, "Oh, there was never any Mark 6." Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, I mean, head writer, book 3, So, hey, it's all good. That I think we've probably done Mark 6 to death.
Well, I think there's been a lot of talk about it going on this week. Pretty much like with all these things, I've seen generally the reaction to the announcement and all that came out around it, including the Mark 6. There's been overwhelmingly positive. There's been some that's negative. Okay, people are entitled to their opinion. It's not something I personally
agree with that. I think it's important to talk about, however, because one voice to someone new, said in a commanding way, can have a real effect.
Yes.
So I do think, and I've had people say, "Oh, you shouldn't worry about it, Greg. This, that, and that," and I'm like, I don't in general, but if I had a YouTube video series and I was putting false information out, and within some of that I did some good stuff and people were recommending that people came to me, then I could easily influence a whole group of people getting into the hobby, and then that becomes almost their foundation. And that's not really fair, frankly. Whether people who make these statements, wherever online, care about that, I don't know. But personally, I do. Like, I've made statements on here and I've got them wrong, and we've come back on and said, you know what, my hands up, got that wrong. I try and keep facts involved. And if I'm not 100% sure, I'll say kind of I've heard. I'm not 100% sure how true it is, that kind of thing. But I think it's important because lots of people are asking questions now.
Yes, that's true. Actually, that is true, and there is a. It almost feels like there's a duty to get that right and give that balanced view.
Yeah, partly as a content producer. I feel that's maybe I take it too seriously.
Just as a community member, you would.
But even more so as a content creator. I'm sure there's lots of people out there who think I'm up my own rear and too stuffy with this, but I take that responsibility on board. I'm not going to get everything right, that's for sure, but we try where we can and try and correct when possible. What did you think of the Praetor?
Now, that's an interesting one. I liked it ish. I didn't like it as much as some friends of mine, and I was surprised at the friends of mine who came out, people who are not hugely into the lore, reading, particularly the reading side of things. There's a group of friends of mine who are all big into the books. One of them in particular came out and said that is one of the best models he'd seen in a long time, and he's not someone
Do
who's
you want to
reading.
name that person?
That would be Jay,
Oh,
a good friend of mine, Jay, who came out, and I was like, that's surprising that he was quite so strongly behind that model in particular. My initial reaction to it was like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a lot going on there, and the sort of chunkiness of it
yeah,
was interesting, was a thing, and it was okay. It didn't have that initial, oh my goodness, that has shocked me, and it's absolutely a model that speaks to me. But the more I've looked at it, and I want to see it in the hand, I think it's one of those models that absolutely needs to be seen in the hand, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing it with the alternative head, which is what I assume based on the trailer. I don't know that, but I would imagine based on the trailer, there's an alternative helmeted head.
I mean, you could put any head on it you want as well, can't you?
Well, indeed, you could do, but I'm just assuming. I just start with the basic, what I assume is a basic head. It looks like there'll be a head, so I'm quite a fan. I'm a fan of its reference to what appears to be a reference to sort of John Blanche style artwork.
Also, it appears to link through to the Nurgle dude in 40k.
Possibly,
I mean,
yes.
the rack's very similar shape.
Yeah.
There are only so many poses. We talked about this, but the axe across the chest, which is the classic Nurgle thing that's been used, and the chonkiness of him as well.
Yeah, and even the studs that are on him is sort of reminiscent of that.
Wouldn't be surprised if that was intentional. Yeah. I'd be honest with you, I'm not a fan. I don't hate it. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I find myself in a similar place. I just find the extreme chunkiness of the armor. That said, I've got a feeling seeing versions of him as a World Eater, as an Iron Warrior, as even Death Guard, as you say, could look absolutely badass.
I think the van braces are a little bit Sigmar, Age of Sigmar, Stormcast.
Yes. I wish you hadn't said that. Now I can't unsee that.
A visual cue for me, having played a lot of Age of Sigmar, that maybe affects that. And you say there's a lot going on. It feels like there's a lot going on, even if there isn't. Like
it does. However, now I'm looking at it in reticular detail. There's a lot of sort of fine work. So particularly the sort of the spines, if you like, or the elements that are coming off the medal, the medallion-like components that are hanging from him. I'd imagine that makes it look visually busy, but in 3D, when you've got it in the hand, I wonder if that sort of layering is going to start to come out. There's a sort of barbaric look to him, which I quite like, this sort of savage look, barbarian look, which is quite cool. Not a huge fan of the big skull on the back of the axe. Big axe, that's cool. Big axe is pretty cool. I'm looking for swapping that out for a hammer. Could look pretty bloody cool. I think we're going to see some interesting work done with that.
The thing I love about him is that people like me, like some people come, you get all the reactions. So you get the people who say, "Worst model ever," like whatever. Get rid of the top 5 and the bottom 5%. Work in the middle. I don't really like it. I'm probably not going to use it, but lots of people do like it and are going to use it. So cool. Like that's a win. Like you don't have to like every model that comes out.
I think it should be in some way. You kind of want some of them to be a little bit divisive because it suggests it's going in a particular direction. If they were all a bit too vanilla, that would be a bit of a shame, wouldn't it?
It's not like you're going to struggle for Praetor models, is it?
No.
At the end of the day, so that's cool.
Surprised they showed it off. If I'm honest, I thought in fact, when they showed the trailer, I thought, we're not going to get any models here. Then they showed the Dak Marine. I was like, that's cool. That's great. I'm glad they've shown that. Wasn't really expecting a second model.
So we're getting a show off every Thursday in April.
Yes.
I assume of more of the box. I don't know, mind you, how many Thursdays are there in April? 1, 2, 3, 4. Because we just miss out on that first one. 1st of April is Friday, so 4 show-offs. So it's got to be more that's in the box, surely, if the box is the leak that we saw. the leaked image we saw where we had like a number of powered armored marines and terminators, 2 characters, Spartan,
Because you could have
Dreadnought.
characters, marines, dreadnought, and tank. That's 4.
Yeah. So yeah, 2 characters.
Yeah, do that as one article.
Well, they've just done one. They've done one.
Exactly. Yeah, put those 2 in one article.
One character. They've shown us Mark 6 Marines. So unless they show us more Mark 6 Marines,
I would imagine they might do a Mark 6 Marines article, because you could do the rest of it. You could do the full kit.
Terminators, but they look.
You're not going to do Terminators, are you? I would imagine,
because they're probably the same.
Yeah.
So Spartan and Dreadnought.
That's 4.
So yeah, I think we might get a little bit more than that. I think we might get that last one being a little, here's something for the future.
Could be, and could also be rules.
Could be the tank.
Oh, that's true. Because they have talked about that a lot. They've talked about that a lot in the trailers. Yeah.
They've admitted the tank's there. They're looking at,
oh,
look at this tank. Look at this tank.
I wonder what that could be. Yeah.
So that makes me think that tank might be released soon after release day, or potentially same period.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because they're already teasing it.
Yeah.
So I am. Yeah. I mean, I've announced it anyway, so I don't know what they're showing. All right, I'm going to say this right up here and now. I have no idea what the articles are going to show. Obviously, I've announced I'm going to the event. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're not going to talk about. Well, we're going to talk about one rumor because it's interesting to me. We're not going to talk about. I know people have got copies of playtest documents. We're not going to talk about any of that because that's not relevant without full rules data. And until we got anything official for all that we can talk about, I'm not going to talk about it.
And I think that's perfectly reasonable. I mean, I'm a fan of following that kind of thing as part of the buzz in some way, but as is wild speculation. But I don't think that's particularly interesting. There's places to go and get that, isn't there? And I don't think that's
cool. And crack on, if that's your thing. But unfortunately, that leads people to make snap judgments over this has been changed. Oh my God, my army's terrible. And it's like, hold on, do you have the full rules information available? Because if you don't know how that affects you. And even then, what we're seeing rules changes. If we see enough rules changes, even if they're small, that could have a big effect on how the game's played. You know what? I'm going to have to play a few games to get a real understanding of how some of the things that are rumoured to be in there work, and stuff like that as well. And the same goes if we have all the rules. You can't judge, like, can we guess that, and we're going to talk about an exemplary battle at some point, can we guess that are those rules ready for this? I would hope so. But, but everything has to have its context.
It's an interesting one. I can't imagine them pushing an update on those specifically, and it would be a shame if they were sort of. I mean, obviously, the lore in them isn't going to be lost, but it would be a shame if the rest of the content, which has gone into those, and I think they are a really good little pack, just be a shame if that. And I just can't see them rushing to update it. No, big time. It's it would be pretty silly for them to produce those kind of documents and then not be relevant for a future edition. So and they've all been stuff which, so we know, and we don't know a lot, but lots of rumours about some styles of vehicles changing, things like that. None of what they've shown us are within those realmscapes. So there's good potential that it all works forward. Anyway, so talk my way around that. It's all good. Have we got the one thing? What did you think about the Mark 6 Marine?
He looks cool, doesn't he? I'm not like, I don't necessarily have a favourite Mark of Marine. I'm not that bothered. Like, I like most of them. Cool. Bonded shoulder pads. Like, they don't scream to me like they do some older gamers. If they're anything like Zephons,
Yeah.
Like that's a pain. Um,
I know.
but you know,
We talked about this, haven't we? And I think we talked about it with Zephon at the time.
yeah,
It's we know why they've made that. We think we know why they've made that choice. It's a molding technique. It's a molding technology. That means you get a better, in inverted commas, stud on the pad rather than. And then when you look at it particularly on the Mark IV legs, and you've got these very stretched, sort of extruded looking studs because they're all going in one direction for mold release purposes. You can see why. But on the other hand, having built Zephon and it being virtually impossible to remove the join line between them, between where the two halves come together, if that is the same on those, which I suspect it might be, looking at it,
happy,
that's going to
happy,
be,
joy, joy.
yeah. I
Yep.
do.
No
I
worries.
think there's a load of cool detail in that model.
However, Mark 6 shoulder pads not having any trim.
I
Winner.
love that. I loved that. I think it was someone put that on. I think it was Meadows Miniatures put that on
Yeah.
Instagram. They said, "Let's not argue about Mark 6. Let's just celebrate less trim." And
Eh,
having just done the Imperial Fist Mark 3, I'm all for that.
yeah. So yeah, they're cool. I like them.
Yeah.
I say I'm not sitting here going, oh my god, I've been waiting forever for this. What will be interesting because they appear to be that little bit bigger is whether we go back and get upscaled Mark 3 and 4 plastics. I would hope they do. And then
I
hopefully
don't think we
plastic
will.
Mark 2 at some point.
I don't think that's the thing. I really don't. I think we're going to stick with the existing kits because I don't think it's going to be a big enough difference. We've talked about
It'll be
this, but
interesting to see.
I think it's a reproportioning rather than certainly not a rescaling.
It's certainly a reproportioning. It would be interesting to see if they do. Mark 3 and Mark 4 have been out a while now. And there's potential for it to upset people's, their little kind of, it doesn't quite work. But
what you mean if they don't, or if they do release
if they don't, the fact that Mark 6 are appear to be taller, because or stand taller on their base, then that could frustrate people. But hey, we'll see what happens. We'll cope either way. I'm sure. I think the proportions look much better on this as well, and that's part of it. Like I would love to see Mark 3 and Mark 4 proportions like that.
Yeah.
And if they're going whole hog as well, so they're talking about plastic releases moving forwards for non-Legion specific stuff,
which is logical.
So, which is amazing, which is logical, which fits in with why they've got so many plastic machines. It allows them to produce at a much higher rate, allows them to sell at GW for it to become like a more primary game system. It reduces the requirement of an intensive, awkward resin system, which is much more liable to be faked overseas.
Yes.
Like you don't get anywhere near as much plastic fake stuff because it's just not worth the time and hassle. So, like within all that sounds like logical way forwards. Really good.
You do also see, you've seen historically, you've seen things like the basic tactical marine kit be updated repeatedly. Now, that's the core, or was the core of the Space Marine range in 40k. So there's a logic to that. It's probably one of the most sold kits that they did. But I could see something similar with the Mark III and the Mark IV. So there's a bit of an argument for that. I just don't think we'll see it.
That gives me hope that we might have a reimagining of those. And a Mark II to go with it would be lovely.
Oh, now that I think there's a distinct possibility. I could really see a Mark II coming.
And just the fact that they're giving it that push, right? So making this stuff in plastic means getting time on the molds and whatever. Like it's going to have its own dedicated kind of schedule for plastic molding, which means they are pushing it. Like because whether they've got enough machines to cover that and everything else anyway, kind of cool. But they could always be making more 40k. That's their bread and butter, isn't it? So and maybe more of this stuff becomes available in 40k as well because it's all plastic.
This is it. I mean, there's a lot of it. I've seen people talking about that with the excitement around this. That a lot of people are excited because it is usable in 40K as well.
Yeah. And the other, so
Cool.
it's interesting as well because it'd be interesting to see how the resin production then is driven in a way, because a lot of people's reasons for going to the Forge World website were to buy Heresy.
Mm.
Like, you know, maybe it's fine, maybe it's cool. Maybe the people who buy Blood Bowl, who go and buy their special characters, just do it through the links that are sent out and do it that way, and that works. But Legion specific stuff, yeah, obviously they're still going to sell stuff, but there's going to be a lot less clicks on the Forge World website for the more basic stuff, because you know people like some people buy Land Raider doors, a lot of people don't. They'll just put transfers on or whatever. You know, they're not. You know, they're happy to put transfers on their shoulder pads or what have you, and crack on and not have to visit a Forge World site very often until they get to that. Oh, I need one unit of them. Cool, I'll buy that. So it'll be interesting to see how Forge World works with that as a site compared to having all the plastic on GW.
But then the transfers are on Forge World as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you buy,
generally accessories, there's going to be things you
want
to
go
take.
And buy four packs of transfers and don't have to visit them again for a while.
Yeah, fair enough.
It'll be interesting how they manage foot traffic through Forge World.
Yes. I wonder also, I mean, there's been a suggestion that there's another version, there's an update coming on the Games Workshop website. I believe
well, they
their
did
report.
Yes.
There's an move there, and I wonder if that's going to start to bring the different groups. I mean, we see the Black Library's website is similarly starting to sort of become sort of creak a bit with age and become less significant.
Every week you get a post. I'm just starting to collect Black Library books, but they all seem to be sold out, and I can only buy ebooks. You have to go to Games Workshop. Like, where's the logic in that? Like,
there's a new product. There's a new one being released. Where is it? Games Workshop, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw 2 years ago, was it, that they had that accidentally put up for Horus Heresy as a part of the.
Yeah, it's happened since as well. It's happened since then. This happened more than once.
Yeah, and what's interesting is this is I saw a news text or message, something about seeing something he worked on come out. So it's like, his unnamed Heresy Project 2020. We talked about that. It's logical sense. I saw someone saying, "How can you know that?" I was like, "Well, I don't know that, but it's pretty probable that this is the case." When you add everything we put together in that logic video, it all still makes sense.
Yeah.
So I've been planning it for a while, and maybe the idea is there, as you say. Also, I mean, Forge World does have a problem with the word Forge in the title. Some credit card companies not liking it. It was mainly an overseas thing, I think, but consolidating everything down to one website where you can buy everything would be very sensible.
Minor thing, and something I'm reminded of as I got a message from them earlier today. I find it deeply frustrating that vouchers are not interchangeable across the two systems in any way, shape, or form. I find that deeply frustrating, and I can't imagine I'm the only one.
Clean up a lot of things.
Niche, but it would just tidy it up, wouldn't it, as you say?
Yeah, and if they market it as experienced, like modelers only and all that, then if some 12-year-old buys it, it's their fault, isn't it? Like their parents' fault.
Well, we talked about it the other day, didn't we? They seem to be experimenting with it, where they put, with the Tau release, they put up Forge World a selection of Forge World units and put them on as expert kits or something like that. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah, so I think we're moving more and more that way, which again, it's just sensible.
Well, there are various places around the world, of which we're lucky being. Well, I'm lucky being in London, and you being in the region-ish. We've got access to Tottenham Court Road, one of their flagship stores that's got Forge World in, and so have the cafes.
It's almost as easy to travel to Nottingham for me.
Wow. Okay, fair enough.
I'm not far off the same price as well.
Yeah.
I say that before the fuel prices went up, maybe. Cool. Yeah. So, but plastic vehicles is like, I hate building big resin kits. Like, I know a lot of people like can't say that as you play Heresy. It's like, yeah, they're terrible. Like, it's just horrible. Give
I
me
don't know.
a
There's a
bit any
sense of
day of the week.
satisfaction. I built a Proteus not that long ago. It took me 3 days. To 3 separate hobby sessions to get the
And
damn
the
thing
huge
finished.
gates, like the point where you
Oh,
actually need a saw, and you're like,
yeah,
can't
yeah,
clip it where you can, but you risk a bit of it shattering off.
yeah.
Just
And
yeah,
including your eyes. Yes.
just anyone who seriously says they prefer resin, whatever.
Prefer is. I don't understand that. It
Well,
is.
that's like
There's
saying you
quite a sense
prefer
of
metal.
satisfaction, but yeah, no, prefer.
If
I'm not
I
so sure about.
did see someone saying, "Oh yeah, I much prefer." Oh, back in the old days when we had metal. Oh yeah, when you had a mold line running down some fur or a face. Oh, that
Oh
was
my God.
lovely, wasn't it? Um,
Fur in particular. Oh God, this makes me feel queasy.
yeah, lots of people bought chainmail. Like lots of people
Yeah.
listening to this won't have a clue what's going on, or just trying to build a screaming skull catapult or a planet killer. Um, the
Oh,
planet killer was a model that
oh,
I took out of its box twice, put back in its box twice, sold it 15 to 18 years later for a vast amount more than I purchased it for, unbuilt, because I just wasn't even going to try. It's just like get over it. Like
the one I
let me.
referenced the other day. I don't believe modelers of a certain vintage. Anyone who's built the old metal War Walker.
Yeah, we'll walk.
Watch those
There's
bloody legs just
so
split
many.
apart.
The Screaming
Oh,
Skull catapult was just one of the
it's
ones.
famous. It's famous, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. I saw one of them shatter on the floor at an event before, and I was just like,
Oh.
I almost had physical pain. But yeah, just get over it. So yeah, plastic for the win, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Yeah, like just you're not going to get a Fire Raptor where its side walls bend 90 degrees. You're not going to get those issues. You're going to get other little issues. Fair enough. Nothing's perfect.
That's quite an assumption that a Fire Raptor's going to go plastic.
Yeah, or whatever. Just whatever.
Would be.
Whatever it is with a long, thin body. You're
Yeah.
not going to have to worry about it. Obviously, I think some of the larger kits that are, I mean, maybe they said all non. Did they say all non? Well, no, they said Legion specific stuff will stay. Like, would they ever do a plastic Mastodon? Oh, it'd be amazing if they did, wouldn't it? I'm sitting here with a resin one.
Challenging kit, isn't it? Yeah.
I'd be gutted. Like, sell my resin one now. But yeah, who? And it's lighter and it's easier to carry around and all that. Easier to fix if it goes wrong. But anyway, we'll take a quick break here. We'll come back because I think we've basically done the trailer stuff. But there was various other bits of information out as well. Okie dokie, and we're back. Forgive any issues with hearing Howard twice or anything like that. In the first, managed to record with my audio set to the computer rather than my headphones. But hey, it is what it is.
It sounded all right from here, and I'm sure.
Yeah,
it just adds a certain 40k element, a 30k element to it. Certain grim, dark audio tone.
Sure. Long-term listeners might know that. I don't know what I'm doing anyway, technically, but it's all good. There was a weird sound there. People heard that.
I was getting that. Was it you hearing a cricket?
I'm hearing a cricket. Okay, so that was us searching for a noise that Zencast was making, which turned out to be Howard's lovely wife's phone in the background. And not the panic on his face when he thought there was a cricket loose in his house was quite amazing.
Well, that's it. We had an infestation.
Are they common in West London? Crickets?
Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, we live near Kew. You know, they have all sorts of stuff there.
Fair point, well put. Yeah, excellent stuff. So, we kind of dealt with models and things going on.
All the excitement.
Indeed. Should we start with the May the 7th announcement?
Yeah, the big open day. Yeah, exciting.
Yeah, there's going to be a Horus Heresy open day at Warhammer World, what information did they put out?
In fact, is that not the first open day they've done in about 2 or 3 years?
It is pretty much.
I mean, they've
No,
done some tournaments. They've dabbled with some tournaments and games events, but this is the first
trying to
open
think.
day they'll have done, I think.
Did they have an event? They had something, didn't they? They had the birthday store thing, the
Oh,
half day.
yes, that's a fair
So
point.
they
But
had
that
that.
seemed to be quite a different tone, I thought.
Oh yeah, no, very different. But that was the first kind
But
of
it was an event.
come to
Yep.
Warhammer World and do stuff
Yeah, fair enough.
event they've had. So this is the second one they've announced since they've obviously decided they can open up that much. What have we got here? The massive new edition will be on display in all its glory, and you'll be able to marvel at the fantastic new miniatures, glory in some of the sprawling studio armies on display, and paint one of the new plastic Mark VI Space Marines, who you'll even get to take home with you. So
You got to love a souvenir.
yeah, keep that paint thin, and then you can get to work on trialing your new colour scheme for your new army. It's all good. And then beyond that, you'll also meet some of the top content creators from around the community in person. And of course, you'll have the chance to try out the new game before it's even out with focus demos to explain some of the core mechanics and rules. Tickets are on sale from the 4th of April, so not very long. Well, I was lucky enough to be asked to come along as one of the top content creators. So when people say this is all about painters and things like that, it's not. It's very much not. There are some content creators on there as well.
You're putting yourself down, Greg. I mean,
No, I'm not.
How many Slayer swords have you won
again? Mate, combined, the podcast has won one.
That's not bad.
Which is more than any other heresy podcast. So I keep Neil in the back pocket for that. While he was everything he did while he was talking on this show counts. So yeah, he's even still part of the show, even though he's not on very often. I know he started up painting again. I know COVID kind of restricted him quite a lot because of the nature of his son and things like that, and they had to be very careful. And I think in all the life's busyness around that as well, painting was something that got put on the back burner, but he's painting again, which is cool. So hopefully Neil Paints on Instagram is your place to go and see what Neil's been up to. I'll nudge him to post some stuff up. And I know he's going to be painting a lot more because of an event we're going to be talking about in a bit. But yes, we have now who's named themselves. So there's a list of people who are coming. But I'm only going to talk about who's named themselves as coming or being involved anyway. In fact, all these names aren't on there that I know. Here at Elven Blood. So cool. She's part of Broadsword Gaming over in Ireland somewhere. Don't know which part. But she's an Instagram kind of a very prolific Instagrammer and paints pretty well. Emma Durant, Electric Eve. She's the ex-Warhammer TV woman, and she's fantastic.
Very interested to see if she's doing some heresy work. I'm very interested to see what she's going to do.
Yeah. Starley, Taylor Painters. I'm not as up with Starley.
I'm a big fan of Taylor Painters. I think they've done some fantastic work. Very good guides to things, and very good guides that cover a painting style. I think feels very accessible. Doesn't feel very painterly. Very sort of. It's a classic style, as I would think of it. It's very cool.
Sure. Mike, Herbert, and George from Hailstorm Wargaming.
Cool.
I'm not that familiar with that. I don't really watch a lot. So quite a few of these are YouTube, and I'm not a massive hobby YouTuber. Just because, frankly. Jules, Lawson, Mikey, and Beanie from Live and Let's Dice. I've heard good things, but again, I don't really watch them. Broadsword Wargaming. I was going to double check. Was that the one I was thinking of that Kira's part of? Or was that someone else? I lose track. There's two. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so that's the other half of Kira and Broadsword are going. I can't remember his name for the life of me. Josh, Omegon's Edge. Joshua is
brilliant.
Yeah, top notch. We're talking Golden Demon level painting.
Yep, that's top tier heresy right there.
Yeah. Silver Paints on Instagram. Talk about enthusiastic Warhammer Instagrammers. She's got a lot of vitality, shall we say? But actually, I follow her on Instagram and haven't looked too closely at what she paints. Just every now and then, kind of dropped in and out. But I have seen some of her painting, and I was mega surprised. Bearing in mind she's been painting months.
Wow.
She's one of them like you hate, right? Because she hasn't been doing it that long, relatively, but is pretty good. Lachlan of Zorpa Zorpa. So by all accounts, he makes some wonderful terrain and stuff on YouTube. Mainly now, terrain's his thing. But again, there was a lot of excitement around his name being put out. Pete the Wargamer is the chap who did the Khorne version of Iran, the Dornian heresy version of Iran, Fafnir Iran from the last episode we talked about, and does a lot of YouTube, does a lot around kind of here's how I built, converted, and painted a model of this army of this specific type.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll do like Emperor Spears and show you like the whole model, how he did it, or things like that, which is a fantastic resource actually, and seems like a thoroughly good chap. Cult of Paint have said they're going as the Cult of Paint have said they're going, not specifically Andy or Henry, although Andy did reply with a woo, so make of that what you will.
Andy might be involved, yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to see Lawrence Baker, Tabletop Tactics.
Excellent.
So that's I don't know how much he paints actually. I've dipped in and out of Tabletop Tactics. I know they're very much.
I don't think it's the focus, but it's army level because it's getting armies ready for.
Are they one of those kind of people who gets people to paint stuff for them because they don't have the time to do it because they're doing
in addition to doing their own.
Exactly, yeah. So like there's lots of different levels here. Siege Studios.
Excellent.
Involved, there's a lot of stuff out there. Richard Gray's supposedly quite a good painter.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably passable, Definitely not arguably one of the best painters in the world.
Golden Demons and Slayer Swords and all that jazz. And then some bloke called Greg. Hey.
Yeah, alongside Richard Gray. How's that make you feel?
I mean, natural, to be fair. I've stood next to Richard Gray plenty of times. Thoroughly nice chap. We get on. Never put a model near his. That would be stupid. I'm foolish, but I'm not that foolish. So that's quite a mix. But there are there's quite a few people you wouldn't associate with heresy, which is a sticking point for some. But I think it's a pretty obvious, like they're trying to push this game system.
Yeah.
And they're trying to push the models and everything else. And when you do that, kind of heresy people are in it already. So if you want to expand your catch, you've got to have a bigger net. But also these people have got great reach anyway. Particularly if you look at someone like, who else has said they're going? Let me just get up. There are more that people have missed there because they're names I haven't heard of. Let me find the other list I had here of people that said they were going.
There's quite a lot of people going, whether they're going as invited individuals or otherwise. I've seen quite a buzz of people getting quite excited about it.
Orion's Belt Minis, that was the other one that I haven't seen written down there, but I saw her post on Instagram. Who again does some wonderful painted stuff. I've never heard of her before being linked to or seeing a link to her Instagram account for that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
I like that. It's a nice variety of people, of the ones who have spoken about it and said, yeah, we're going to be involved.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's a dozen or so different accounts or groups of people which is kind of cool. So there's a wide variety there as well. Like
I think
you
that's
look
nice.
at, even if you look at, you've got podcasts. Like you'd never put me down. I say you'd never put me in the list with half those names for any. But even if you take a look at painters on there, there's if Andy and Henry, or Andy or Henry are going, they're probably going to have a different take on things to M. Durant. She's usually quite bright and striking with the way she paints, things like that. Andy's got much more of a natural kind of appeal, isn't he? Where he likes to paint things much more naturally. We'll see, whatever. And then you've got Lawrence Baker, Tabletop Tactics. That's a bit different as well. So
that's going to be quite interesting. See what the take on it as a coming from a gaming perspective is going to be interesting.
Yeah. So
you've got a mixture of painters, gamers, people who are sort of covering a range of those bases, and Greg.
Exactly. Me just stood on the end going hello. But yeah, there's do we have a War Master painting? No, War Master Paintings also said they're going. They're not on that list.
Oh, okay.
So
just getting quite a few then. Quite a few people being involved.
Yeah, Joseph, that's right. He's going, and he's been around the heresy scene for a while, which is cool. But yeah, there's a real mix of people going, and that's all that we've said is that we are going.
Shall I just come as your shield bearer, or shall I just bring your helmet or something?
No, I want you to be my shield bearer like the two dwarfs, and like you could be either Grombron Bradriel or Gottrick.
Okay.
No, was it Gottrick and Joseph Bugman, wasn't it? Carrying Grombron
Bradriel.
You try and say it without having said it in a few years. Tom Bombadil? Yeah, that's right.
That's
okay.
him.
I can be Tom Bombadil on top of your shield, and you can be my Joseph Bugman.
Okay.
Sorted. Yeah. Hopefully, it's going to be fun. It's an event at Warhammer World, and it's going to be all about heresy. Like, how much else is going to be there? Who knows? You're going to get to play the game and try out a few of the rules, and
it's just going to have the buzz, isn't it? I mean, that morning, this is the beauty of these open days. It's going to have a buzz and energy around it, and hopefully a lot of people there.
It's no weekender.
No, it's not that kind of event, is it?
It's the next best thing. So
I think it's a very different kind of thing. I don't think it wants to be a weekender because it's a release event. It's almost a preview event. It's to say, because they've said openly it's going to be hey, you get to see the new edition probably the first time. In fact, it will be the first time you get to see the new edition. And I think that's very exciting. I think that's exciting as a type of event. And I hope there's going to be a fair few people there. I'm going to try and get there, even though it
doesn't say it's the first time. It says the massive new edition would be on display in all its glory.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
for the first time. First time you get to try the rules out.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, it doesn't even. You'll have a chance to try out the new game before it's even out with focus demos. Yeah. So they might show us everything beforehand, but you'll be able to get to see stuff. And they've said there's going to be, what did they say? Studio armies on display.
That's cool.
So you're going to get to see a variety of different armies, which will be good as well. I suspect there'll be some Paul Rudge, some John Bedford, some Andy Hoare. I'll be disappointed if there wasn't, because those three armies have been around. Like
those are armies of the studio team members. Those aren't studio armies. I wonder if you might see some.
I hope we get those as well. As well as studio armies, if you know what I mean. Like armies painted specifically for this, but hopefully we'll get to see some other bits as well.
Yeah,
because it's great. It'll be good to see new people as well, getting to see some of the stuff that we've seen for a long time. So
it sounds like a cool event.
Looking forward to that.
And just cool to have events like that again. I mean, that's an all-round type event. It's not a gaming event which has a different kind of focus or otherwise. It's just going to be cool to have that kind of open day event again.
I'm wondering if we're too late for a Black Library Weekender to be organised this year.
It's not looking good, is it?
Or have been organised. Well, who knows? Because they used to tell us so late
November.
about them anyway. Yeah, but
Yeah,
they used to tell us at the end of like July, September, didn't they?
that's true.
July,
That's true.
August. So there's a slim chance that they can do that. Did hear a little thing that the Weekender might not be dead for Heresy, but
Might
no,
not be dead.
might not be dead. No official sources for that. This is like pinch of salt time. I heard that the Weekender could be revived, which would be amazing.
I mean,
Another
again,
weekend
with a type of event that's, given that they're about to relaunch the Horus Heresy as a massive game system. I mean, it's not that much of a stretch.
No, but it's not the. It's going to be much more mainstream than it was. So
is that a suggestion of that it wouldn't happen? That sounds like a suggestion more that it might be more likely to happen. But I suppose you might fold it. Yeah, I suppose you could say you could fold it into. It would be more likely to be. Well, that's now a part of Warhammer Fest.
Are you not just taking something which had fewer people, very few could go to, and making it very few people of an even larger number can go to? Don't know. So who knows? But I heard a little sneaky potential that could be happening. But what we have got is on the 23rd and 24th of July, battles in the Age of Darkness at Warhammer World. Head over to Warhammer World for 2 days of Horus Heresy gaming bliss. You'll play 5 3,000-point games battling over the awesome terrain in the amazing gaming hall, while Bugman's Bar is close by. And I'm going to press the Get More Information thing by the Warhammer events team. Prove your might across 5 games of Horus Heresy in a tournament that will test your cunning and strategic skill.
A tournament?
Yeah, so this also goes with their US Open series. When the US Open gets to Chicago, Illinois on the 6th to 9th of October 2022, there is a Horus Heresy Grand Tournament. So it'll be interesting to see if the new rule set is out, ready for the 23rd, 24th of July. Missions as found in the Age of Darkness rulebook, which is the current rulebook.
Well, yeah, but it could still apply.
It could still be called that, but let me just have a little look down the list to see if there's anything more information. No, I can't see any more information at the moment on that. But then the later one, you would hope, like they've shown us something now, even with additions, like there's slightly longer lead time potentially with additions. So I think we're still looking at a summer release schedule. Maybe it'll change slightly. 6x4
with the open days early May. I would have thought it's going to be June, isn't it? End of May, something like that.
Yeah, 6x4 board size for the Horus Heresy event at Warhammer World.
Big, makes sense. Big-ish board.
Sort of makes sense, but the other 2 game systems have gone smaller boards.
No, that's what I mean. But that's why I think for Heresy that's quite cool because it's bigger, sweeping. 3,000 point games as well. I mean, I've got no idea what the points levels are going to be in the new edition, but it still feels like that's going to be potentially a lot of models.
Yeah, we're again, it's that weird kind of bit where it could easily have gone to joining the other mats. In fact, we're at the club and people are like, should we just cut all these mats? I'm like, don't you dare, because if Horus Heresy stays 6x4, we're going to need them. And even then, I might have kept them anyway for more narrative gaming. But it's all part of the fun. Let me pause this. Yeah, but what's interesting is tournaments.
Yeah, I feel that.
Especially with the US event pack, because they've GW have announced they're working with the ITC now for events and things, and tournaments ITC go together. Is it going to be a way they're pushing the game? It's a way to grow the game. Whether it's the way I want the game to be grown, like within my circles, I'm not so sure, because I think you introduce an element of wanting to push to win more.
That's true, but then it's like with the other games, the game systems rather. There's nothing to say that they can't be different forms of the game. Narrative, open, matched being the classic phrases that are being used a lot. You could have matched play and narrative play versions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a weird one. Like tournament. Yeah, we've said multiple times. There's a place for tournament play in Heresy, if only to allow people to express that style of play in an environment where it's suitable. Absolutely fine. There is a potential issue if that style of event becomes really popular, people want to play it, and then want to take that attitude into a narrative event.
No, that's not going to be compatible.
No, really not. So what? Yeah, and this might not happen, but my first thoughts are, okay, I need to revisit how I write my packs when I do events, because although it's clear,
clarity.
I need it to be abundantly clear. I will not, if I'm running a narrative event, I will not submit any results to ITC.
Yeah.
Right, and I will not publish who wins games or anything like that, and I will do everything in my power if I want to maintain the narrative element of that, to make sure that I make it as clear as possible that this is not an event that's a tournament. And therefore, if you're hoping to get out of it what you get out of a tournament, you're going to be disappointed. Please don't come.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing worse than people. The biggest problem in any war game is mixed expectations.
Spot on. Perfectly put.
Yeah. Everything's got its place.
Yep, you can do whatever you like, and that'll be as popular or as not as people supporting it. But the mismatched expectations, it will just lead to negative experiences.
You know what? There's no doubt tournaments are easy to run than narrative events. They really are, especially with tools like BCP. You can just plug all your data in, make sure it's all in the right boxes, press the button. Oh, there's the next round. You don't. You can choose your missions up front. Like you can publish it all, and like you can sit back during the event and then just deal with any little fires that come up. At a narrative event, you might get fewer fires, but
I'd say when things go wrong, it's less of an issue. But
there's a lot less work involved up front in a tournament, because you only have to look at the way, like I have a bugbear with the way 40k and Age of Sigmar tournaments are run at the moment. There's no variety. There's such little variety, and people tell me, oh, they've tried different things and people don't come, and I'm like, yeah, to a point, but I think you can do it. I'm sure it works better in some areas than others, but like have a 1,500 point tournament, like have a 1,250, have a 1,750, have a 2,000. You mix it up. Like it changes the game up, makes it fresh. It would be like I've changed the points level of my events at various points. I saw some, for a while ago, a few years ago, they were talking about there was talk in certain circles about a 3,250 point meta, and events were going to move to that level. And I'm like, okay, cool. I won't. If every event's going to be like that, I'm going to do something different, because it needs to be fresh. There needs to be variety. And some people won't come to my event for that. Fine. But other people will. And that's not a problem. So, tournaments is an interesting one. We'll keep our eye on that. I say not necessarily a bad thing in itself, but it's how it affects the event-going community. And it'll be interesting to see how many people choose to run Horus Heresy tournaments. You can imagine places like Firestorm thinking, oh, brilliant, there's a way to have Horus Heresy at my store, earn money, and I can run it as a tournament, and it doesn't take much effort, because I just need to know enough rules and have people on hand who do know the rules. But how many of the current event organisers are going to decide to do tournaments? Because there's quite a passion to do narrative events for whatever level of narrative they are. If it's themed, if it's narrative, whatever. So
and it'd be interesting to see which one becomes. Does one detract from the other? I.e., do you have a limited number of events you can go to? Do you pick one over the other, and therefore is it? I would imagine with the increased popularity that will become
Yeah,
less
it'll be interesting.
relevant.
There is one major positive if there is a link up and there is tournaments and tournament data, is that could lead to a balance thing coming out more often, an FAQ errata, points balances coming out more often. People talk, it makes me laugh. I've seen a lot of talk recently about, this unit's so unbalanced. Like, it's not like the old days. And I'm like, hold on, let's go back to book 2 and 3 when, like, you think that the Typhon's good now. Like, when it came out, like, people were bringing 2 Typhons because it almost, like, there was just every table was at least 1 Typhon, 2 on some. And the Cerberus was never seen. Even when they dropped the points by a huge amount, was never seen because it was still that bad. Like, but Alan Bly used one and he liked it, so it kind of stayed like how it was. Like, it's like there's this whole, people looking back always think things were better, weren't they? But like, there were some real obvious choices to be taken back then. But by their own admission, they didn't design the game to be taken in that way. They were like, use what's cool, build a story.
Not what this game's for, which is
exactly,
changing because it's increased popularity.
But I understand a need to maybe push for a new audience. That's cool.
Yeah.
It'll be, I wouldn't necessarily not attend a tournament, and I wouldn't necessarily not run one actually, in theory. But my main event, I think, would be narratives. I'm not going to have the same amount of time to run events as I used to. So
no.
Especially with wanting to do like some AT ones and things like that as well.
Yeah.
So choices have to be made, I suppose. It'll be interesting to see what something like the LGT do.
Yes.
Because someone ran the very first Heresy event and it was a bit of a mixed match of things. Then I took over and did 2, took it up to 92 tickets sold, something like that for London Stadium. Then it reduced in popularity a little bit. I can't remember how many were there last year. It seemed like 30 odd, something like that.
Oh wow!
Could be wrong. Might have been 40. Don't know, around there, something like that. I know there was a feeling that they wanted to sell more. It'll be interesting to see if to fit in with the other events that it goes more tournament based. It's a lot less effort for whoever's taking it on. So that's potential for them to do something like that, which would be a shame.
With Games Workshop throwing their weight behind events.
Yes,
it'll be interesting to see if they're doing that to help promote, frankly, or drive enthusiasm in the game. That'll be interesting to see if they put some weight behind it and if popularity grows with it.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on. But as I say, it might not all be bad, so let's not worry about it too much. Cool. Yes. So that's all that. Was there any?
It's covered all the significant things. We've had the open day, the other heresy events, the taunt things in July and the things in the US later on. We've had the announcement, the trailer, the models.
We did have an exemplary battle. We got Emperor's Children Sunkiller unit, which they good. And a unit, again, going back to those classic units that people have talked about wanting for a while.
That to me was a classic from the card game era.
Absolutely, yeah. And they're there alongside the White Scars. What are they called again? Mine's gone blank. They're something of death, aren't they? They're the White Scars Dark Sons of Death squad.
They're serious
Carahol. That's exactly right. So the Sunkiller squad, 250 points. Again, this is almost irrelevant now for us to worry about. Ballistic skill 5, that's better than 4, so that's good. Come with las cannons as standard. Can swap their las cannons out for Volkite, Plasma, or multi-melter for free.
I thought that was an
Cool.
interesting choice, them doing it that way, because I thought it doesn't. Aren't those other weapons lower cost typically?
They were.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Again, who knows now with the new rules? Obviously, some people believe they do. We're not getting into that. They can have an augury scanner or metal bombs. Not sure why you'd take that on the Novator, but artificial armor. He can exchange his las cannon for a bolter, a combi weapon, a single lightning claw, or a power fist. I think if you're swapping your las cannon for that, you're kind of like you should have shot them up more before they got there. But they may exchange their chainsword for a power weapon or a charnable blade, which is not a bad option, especially they're Emperor's children. They have precision fire and fortified position. So fortified position in a game that allows you to fortifications. If it has not selected a dedicated transport, it may instead select an Aegis defense line without using up a fortification force organization's choice, but the costing points must be counted towards the army total. So that's cool. Instead of a vehicle, they can take a defensive position. Interesting. Makes it much more survivable as a basic 3-up armor unit with a probably a 2-up champ in there. Precision fire. Now this has been clarified by Andy Hoare himself and has actually been changed, I think, in the document. Models may not choose to make a cover save, but may still make applicable armor or invulnerable saves against wounds, glancing hits, or penetrating hits inflicted by attacks made with this special rule. Attacks made as a snapshot gain no benefit from this special rule, and saves taken against them are as per the standard. So basically, if this unit doesn't move, you do not get cover saves. And because you might be firing las cannons, you don't also get armor saves. And you don't get glancing hit or cover saves against glancing hits or penetrating hits either. So yeah, if you've got an invulnerable field on the front of your tank, you still get those, what have you. If you're taking multi-melter or the las cannon, it's going to ream tanks. And if you're taking like plasma cannons, and as I say, multi-melters and las cannons again, it's going to ream infantry. They are, I think they might as well be called target priority 1. If I was playing against them, because if you've got a squad of these dudes stood around, they are destroying a unit a turn, basically.
And there's no hiding. Yeah.
But you're paying 250 points for 5 dudes, so fair play. But say if depending on how the rules work with things like artificial armor and all that, you potentially bring them down with bolt guns. So stand in your fortified position. Like if I can get 30, 40 bolt guns at you, I'm going to do some damage, or heavy bolters and anything that can put lots of saves on you.
It sort of feels very. Also, I like how they feel very Emperor's Children.
Yeah, very glass cannon.
Yeah, they are, but there's that precision to them, which I think is quite
also
cool.
250 points is a lot, but it's not hard to find 250 points.
No.
So you can have them in their fortification behind a tank first turn, that kind of thing.
And I think if you're building around that kind of type of list, I don't think it's not hard at all. They're not just like the one thing you add on at the end. To me, it's something you're thinking, okay, this is a type of list. It's a very weapons fire heavy list I'm thinking of building. I feel like they complement that well, and it's just something that's been around sort of hinted at for so long in a number of sources. And I think it's really cool.
Filling out those unit choices is always good. Yeah, and they are, they've got the potential to really hurt. Like, if you don't get first turn, like they're going to hurt something, and if you don't get rid of them, they're still going to hurt something. Even 2 of those guys with las cannons, like if you've got a lot of tanks, that's a worrying thing. So that's cool. I really like that. White Scars, Dark Sons of Death, 145 points for 5 of these dudes. Jump infantry. Yeah, they are cool. They are seriously dark. A couple of attacks each, blah, blah, blah. They're destroyers. They also come flying in. They're the ones that come with they jump around with whatchamacallums, don't they? The psychers are the seekers. What are they called in the White Scars? My mind's gone blank again.
The White Scars?
Yeah. What are the psychers called?
Stormseers.
Storm Seers. Sorry, did I say Seekers? I meant Psychers. I told you I was.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry, apologies. This connection with total and all-encompassing death caused them to be regarded with unease by their battle brothers. And as such, their armor was often marked with wards of banishment and adorned with talismans of purification. Loving it. So they get bulk guy, blah, 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 blah. They can take up to 10 additional, so you can have 15. Any model can have a charnel saber or a power glaive. Every 5 models can have a plasma pistol or hand flamer. Every 5 models, one can have a plasma gun, melter gun, or flamer. The unit can take metal bombs at 25 points for the unit, which is never a bad thing to be done that way. Champion can have a power weapon, power fist, or single lightning claw, or a pair of lightning claws, or a plasma pistol, hand flamer, and artificer armor. So a Dark Sons of Death squad may be taken. Here we go. I should have scrolled down and seen Storm Seer.
That's the word, yeah.
May be taken as a retinue for any librarian with a jump pack and the Legion's Astartes White Scar special rule. So that's pretty cool to have a specific retinue there.
Yeah, I think tying them to a specific character, specifically to Storm Seers here, that's a really cool option. It's quite nice just to have them set up in that way, have them tied to it. And destroyers somehow, particularly having sort of psychic-based destroyers, I thought that was quite nice. I liked how it linked it specifically to what Storm Seers are in White Scars as well, and they're the ones to sanction this. And I thought that's quite fun. You could see that being through chaplains in other legions as well, or you could see them being almost linked to other consoles, particularly those consoles that have got a specific role, like librarians, chaplains, and even maybe.
And even then, only with the approval of the Great Khan himself.
Yeah, there's layers of approval to this.
These are things not to be drawn, just willy nilly. Invocation of the Raising Tempest. Once per game at the start of the White Scars player's turn and before the start of the movement phase, the White Scars player may declare they are activating Invocation of the Raising Tempest. For the duration of that player turn, a unit made up of models with this special rule and any librarian that has joined them may gain the Fleet and Rage special rules. So that's good. That it encompasses the librarian as well. It's just decent rules writing, which is nice to see. So they're going to go hard that one turn. And you choose it as well, which is good. Before the start of the movement phase, so, but you can measure at any point, can't you? So it's not a problem, really. I like that. And you can still miss a charge, but it gives you that little boost on the turns you think you're going to get in. And then Ritual of Unmaking. When a unit made up of models with this special rule is called upon to make a sweeping advance, they may choose to automatically fail that sweeping advance roll. If they choose to fail the sweeping advance roll, all enemy units with at least one model within 6 inches of a model from the winning unit with this special rule, after any consolidation moves are made, must take a leadership test. If the test is failed, the enemy unit suffers a penalty of -1 to their weapon skill until the end of their controlling player's next turn. So I can only think this plays into new rules, because otherwise it seems pointless. Because you're choosing to automatically fail. So there's very few instances where that will ever be that you would fail automatically anyway. So you're almost always better rolling the dice and just choosing to wipe them out. So this would lead me to think that there's a change to the way sweeping advance rolls done. Otherwise, it just seems like a bit of a weak rule. Not sure of that one personally. And it's this one is when a unit made up of models with this special rule. So if you've taken this one with the librarian, it doesn't work.
I wonder if that might have some
unless they get
as well. Yeah.
Unless that, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that got FAQ'd, because I doubt they'd give that to the librarian.
No, but it sounds like that's a weird thing that you'd have something that would deactivate when they're clearly intended to work together.
Yeah, but because nothing in the background suggests it will work differently. Unlike when we talked about Zephon had rules that were definitely whether he's with units or not, like rules that interacted with how he joined units or not.
Yeah, I can see that to a
This
degree.
reads like it should have been included,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I don't know, but we'll see.
Very cool looking models, I thought, in the example, and the background is some of the best of these Legion specific destroyers, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they're super cool actually. I like. I don't know. There's something about big jump assault units.
Hmm.
They're not amazing, but they kind of have the potential to be. I don't think I've seen many. Don't think I've seen many armies take them well outside of like your Blood Angels, um, Revelation, Days of Revelation, or a couple of other little Rites of War tricks things. But I always felt there was potential for having a couple of decent sized units of assault troops, and not even just in your Night Lords or whatever that you used, as the swinging punch whilst you drove something else scary up the army. And I could see them doing a job like that. How many points were they again? 145 for 5 and 20 points each. Yeah.
Not too bad. Yeah.
No, it's not too bad. I mean, 20
Quite well
points each
pointed.
for a 3-person. Like, you've got to. I think the key here is, like, a lot of these units is any model in the unit may exchange a chainsaw for one of the following. Well, frankly, not many are going to do that because they're the ones that are going to die. I saw someone talking about like taking Terminators. There was a discussion on one of our groups about taking Terminators. They were like, "Oh, I can do this. Shall I take Lightning Claw Terminators?" I was like, "Yeah, something's got to die first. Keep the cheap ones. Like, it's got to be done." So yeah, ablative wounds is never a bad thing.
You could consider that comfortably as part of the unit.
Yeah, and depending on what librarian you're taking as well. If you can buff their toughness, so they're taking less wounds, or give them an invulnerable save, then actually they become that much more scary.
Particularly significant when you mentioned Blood Angels units. I mean, they are particularly effective when you start chucking librarians in with them. So it does suggest here there's that synergy. I could see that being a fun little unit, and I just think they're just cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got your rag grenades with them and everything else as well. I like them. I like them a lot. It'll be there's a lot going on. We're going to see. We still got a lot to see actually, of like every legion getting a destroyer unit and what have you. But yeah, another really cool exemplary battle.
Yeah,
I don't fancy their chances much against a plasma squad of Sunkillers, but hey, it's a slight mismatch.
But there's not a lot that you would.
No, but also that's kind of a built-in like matchup for the Sunkillers, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
That's what they're good at. But hey, here's what it is. I haven't actually looked that much at the because this all came out while I was really busy about I think from what I listened to other people, there's a funky scenario which looked quite cool, but I say I haven't actually looked at it much. I don't know. There's too much going on at the moment.
Yeah,
there's far too much going on at the moment.
But that's part of it. That's what makes it exciting.
Indeed. Cool. I think
it's a packed one, isn't it? Packed session today this time.
Yeah. I mean, we were going to talk about what like things you can do. Like, I'll tell you what. Maybe we push that back to next episode because we're going to be recording again. So start of next month will be a show, and then 6 days later, or maybe less, depending on how quickly I edit it, will be an event where everything's shown off. Woo! So I thought this show was going to be a bit awkward until we've got loads of stuff to talk about. Next show could be even more awkward. So bearing in mind again that even if there's even more information out there, there might be some that I can't talk about, and various things like that as well. I was going to do a question and answers, but we're just going to get questions about what do we think of this in the new rule set, and there might be stuff in there that I really can't talk about. So We're not going to do any of that. And if you've got questions that aren't like that, cool, send them in. I think that would be a good idea. What we might address is like, how do we prep? Because I still think it's going to be a little bit of time before we then get the actual release.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get it in May. Well, we don't know that we'll get it in June. I think normally it's July, isn't it? Release for the big games. Was it June?
Yeah, I just think it's unlikely they'd have an event to show something off and then hold it back for 2 months, nearly 3 months.
Like they did with New 40k at Warhammer Fest.
3 months?
No, 2 months. May. Oh, you mean do you mean the Adepticon reveal?
No, I mean beginning of May. So you'd have then all of May, all of June, and it wouldn't be until at some point in July.
Yeah, 2 and a bit months.
It's probably going to be a 2-week pre-order, I'm assuming. Yeah. It's going to be a big move if they do their pre-order weekend.
To actually come out in July. But that's what they did with New 40k. That was maybe slightly later in May, to be fair. Yeah. But wasn't released till, I'm pretty sure. When was 40k 8th edition released? A few years ago now, obviously. So June the 3rd. Okay, so maybe June. So I'm jumping.
Could be June. Could be. So, I could see it being June. I could see it being July. May is looking increasingly unlikely.
Yeah. There we go. So maybe June. Maybe I'm a little bit out of kilter with where I am. It's been a while since I've paid that much attention. 9th edition was July. 17th of June for 8th. 17th of June. Okay, so mid-June. So got a month and a half. Like, if that's anything to go by, which is fair. I think, and that brings us to a 3-month window from Adepticon, basically.
Okay, that starts to make sense.
So yeah, maybe that's right. That all fits. So
fits with the standard, which of course it may not follow, but okay.
No, this is again, like, this is, I don't know when this is being released. I have no idea. So hey, we're working off some form of logic again, and traditional GW releases, but they every now and then surprise us. So who knows? But it usually fits in with their marketing and summer holidays and things like that, when they can get and financials and all that jazz. So it could be a decent window for them to do something like that. Much excite. But yeah, we'll be recording again before I go up for that open day. So who knows what they'll have shown us or teased us before then. I don't know.
Well, quite,
I have no idea. Well, we'll have
either way,
the 4 articles.
The floodgates are starting to open, aren't they?
We'll have to try and record after that 4th article comes out, so it might be a quick turnaround on the episode. I might have to do some quick editing. So we'll try and fit all that in. But yeah, if you've got any questions which aren't what's coming out, what do you think of these rules? Unless they've been officially announced. Like, anything that's officially announced, we can talk about. But I'm not going to talk about anything that isn't officially announced. Hopefully you guys understand that, it's just not worth it.
No.
Frankly. And in fact, I'm staying away from the leaks a little bit, to be honest, because I've got enough going on. They'll come out and I'll have plenty of time to read them and digest them.
They have limited. I mean, really, it's just, to me, they're all just part of the buzz.
Yeah, and what's also interesting is with the style of move they've done with Heresy now, that puts it, I say, more in line with. So there's belief that it'll be the 3rd game system and all that jazz, and cool. Even if it's not, even if it's more Adepticon Blood Bowl, Adeptus Titanicus Blood Bowl, that kind of thing. Like, it could sit somewhere in the middle of all that. But what those games have all done is supported content creators, whereas Horus Heresy hasn't, because they're not giving out big black books to people. Like, that just wasn't done. They weren't giving out resin models to people. Just wasn't done. Yeah. So I've been lucky in that over the years I've had a couple of contacts where I've got a couple of things a little bit early, but that is fortunate circumstance. That's all that is. And when I say a little bit early, I mean like, and that's early. Yeah. Nothing that I could ever have done anything with. Like, in fact, I've even been told, oh, there's going to be something really exciting here, and that's all I get told, which is worse. Like, it's less information. It's less information than people who from Bolter and Chainsword have got about the same things. So it's never worked out that well for me. But there is possibility that heresy content creators who are the right kind of people that GW want to work with, which is an important factor, do start getting some pre-release stuff to review.
Yeah,
whether that's Goonhammer, us. Obviously, I've got a relationship with GW. I've written for them and things like that. There are certain heresy channels out there I'm pretty sure they're not going to touch, and that's the same with Age of Sigmar and 40k and everything else. They've got a profile they want to work with. At the end of the day, anything given to anyone is a form of advertising for GW. It's basically the only advertising they do. Apart from very specific things, they normally get whoever's making their other games to advertise for them. So, so it makes sense for them to utilize that. But so hopefully we will be treated like other game systems, which is kind of what we've always wanted. We had that period of knowing more than anyone other else's game system, and then we fell way behind.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice to be on an even keel with those guys, but we shall see. Who knows? I say there's I know far less than I do. So there's far more out there unknown to me than is known. I know absolutely zip really. So it's all good. Anyway, I think we're probably done.
Now it's going to feel like there's a bit of a race to that, even though it's actually a month away to that open day. So I think that's sounding very. I just like having an event to organise it around. I think that's going to be cool.
Yeah, it will. It will be cool. There's a lot going on this month. So May will be around May the 7th. That's the date, isn't it? May the 7th. That'll be around sooner than it feels like it should, I'm sure. But hey, it'll all be fun. Okie dokie. We'll leave that there, and we'll come back next episode. And as I say, get questions in.
What a period as well. What a period of excitement we're in. Cannot wait.
It's crazy. Cheers, Howard.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Imperial Truth. Just one quick correction. While I was editing the Dark Sons of Death rule that we were questioning, as usual, we misread a little thing, conflated things, misread things, assumed it was worse than it was. I still think we need to see the new rules to really see how it affects things. But the, what was it called? Ritual of Unmaking. So instead of sweeping advance, you can choose to fail. And all enemy units with at least one model within 6 inches of a model from the winning unit with this special rule. So any unit has a model within 6 inches of that unit, which again, the unit's got to be made up of all models to have that rule, which might be an option or something like that for the White Scars, we don't know. Then they are -1 to the weapon skill. So if you have a packed area, somewhere like Zone Mortalis, this could be interesting, but a 6-inch wide area, it's not as useless as we made it out to be. How useful is it currently? And another current rule set as well, -1 weapon skill. So
It's not the reason you're taking this unit, shall we say. So I wanted to squeeze that little correction in there. Moving on. If you want to contact us, if you've got any questions, as I say, we've got any questions that are not about new rules, new units, those kind of things for next episode, then let us know, please. General questions as well, please feel free. Any ideas, any feedback, email greg@theimperialtruth.com. And you can find the show at imperial_truth on Twitter as well, and Child of Fang on Instagram. All the information, of course, is in the show notes as well. So if you never need any of that, if you're purchasing from Element, all the links are in the show notes for that as well. Personally, saving my pennies to see what I might grab and what might be out and what new things they might throw at us as well. Because this box set, if it comes out, it's probably going to be a fair chunk of wad. So if you're going to want all the Mark 6 right at the start in that box set, which I'm sure is going to be a good deal, I will caveat the one thing Element and a few of the other bigger retailers in the UK have done is not offered the same 20% discount. So, I just want to make sure I'm completely honest with everyone. So if you're saving it up for that, maybe we'll try and get confirmation from Element on that one. But be aware of that when purchasing. But as I say, when stuff comes out separate, I'm not sure I'm going to need huge amounts of dudes when it comes out. So it'll be interesting to see for me whether I go for the big box or whether I get those parts separately. But as I say, who knows? So a bit of waiting on that part. I think that's probably about it. All the usual stuff. I say, please feel free to nominate topics and things like that as well. It'll be interesting to see as well as we get closer. We're going to get a date. Hopefully, maybe it is that mid-June release date, which means events have to start planning around that as well and seeing what they're doing. Exciting times. So I'm going to leave it there. You have been listening to The Imperial Truth.